All right, everyone, welcome to the next lesson of our microservice stack. Everything is recording perfectly fine. So let's continue. So basically what we're going to do in this lesson is basically a very important lesson. We are going to install Protobuffers. We're going to use gRPC because we're going to attach, I'm going to teach you how to attach another transport to your microservice. It's very important because not every microservice will have the same transport. Most of the time it will, because it's going to be consistent, but it's perfectly normal if you're going into a company. Don't be scared, but if you go into a big company, they have 50, 60 microservices. That some microservices are written in Python, some are written in Go, some are written in Java, Scala, most of the time. And some are using JSON, and a couple are using gRPC. And then they say, hey, yo, can you make another microservice in Golang? But you need to support JSON and Protobuffer. So yeah, that's something that really happens. So I have basically in our README, I have this beautiful documentation laid out for you. So if you want to install Protobuffer, it's the proto compiler, basically this one. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be so annoying. Is it this key? What key is it? Some keys is doing nasty things. It's going to be the proto compiler, protoc compiler, right? That's what we're going to install by this command, right? And then you're going to have the plugins, right? For Mac, if you're on Mac, you can use brew install protobuffer, protobuff, and it's going to be fine. And then we need to install two plugins for Go, which is the gRPC and the Protobuff for Go, right? Those are the two plugins we need to have. And once that's done, just copy these things, paste it in, and you're going to be set up, right? So, okay, cool. Let me close all editors here, right? What I'm going to do, basically, yeah, it's fine. I want to say I'm going to use Vim, but it's fine. I will use VS Code. Why not? So basically, let me put myself in a comfortable position here. The first thing we are going to do, basically, is see if it all works fine, right? So we have these types here, and we are going to make a new file, and that's going to be, I'm going to call it ptypes.proto, because otherwise these files will basically conflict. And let me quickly open some stuff up on the other side, because I'm not always 100% sure about the syntax here for Protobuffer. Right, so we're going to make a Protobuffer file first. So what we're going to do is we're going to say syntax is going to be proto3, right? Then we're going to say, like I said, this option stuff, I don't know at the top of my head. I'm basically reading it off from another screen, from another project, right? And so we're going to say option, and it's going to be go_package. And that's going to be github.com. It's going to be fulltimegodev, right? Fulltimegodev, or whatever you named it. But if you follow the code along, it's going to be fulltimegodev. And we're going to call this /tolling. And then we're going to say types, right? That's basically where our file lives. And then we can say something, for example, a message. Because in Protobuffer, we need to basically write Protobuffer messages, and they need to be compiled. It's very important. So we're going to say message test. Let's do a test message first. And we're going to say, for example, int32 some int. And that's going to be 1, right? And for each field, you need to increment that. It could be int32 some other int or something. And that's going to be 2, right? And 3, and 4, and 5. And basically, yeah, that's what it's going to be. So something like that. And then we are going to make our make file here. And we are going to say something like proto. And that's going to be, I need to check that syntax real quick out. Like I said, if you know that on the top of your head, you're a complete maniac, right? Right, so we're going to do something like, let's keep it simple first, because we're going to add some stuff for gRPC later on. So we're going to say protoc, which is our compiler here. And if you want to test if protoc is working, you could do a which protoc, boom, and then you're going to see that's installed. And if you actually do protoc like this, it's going to give you some shenanigans, right? If that's not working, then you have a problem. But normally, if you follow my README steps, it's going to be perfectly fine. So we're going to say protoc here. We're going to say protoc --go_out. And we're going to say the current directory, right? Dot. Then we're going to say go_opt is going to be paths source relative. Yes. And then we're going to say which file we're going to basically compile. It's going to be types tproto, I guess. No, ptypes. That was it. Prototypes. .go. .proto. What am I doing? Boom. Just like that. Let me see if this is going to work here. Make proto. Proto.gen go. Program not found or is not executable. What we also need to do basically is, I forgot something actually here. It's maybe this. It's the path, right? You need to copy this path inside of your, I thought it was already set normally if you set up a new system. You should do that, I forgot. So I'm gonna basically press enter and do a protoc and make proto here. And now it's working pretty fine. So I'm gonna basically do that in our documentation. Something like this. Actually, we could say tree note that you need to set the, how is it called? The go bin directory in your path. We're gonna paste that in, copy this, paste, just like this, or whatever. How do we say that? Whatever your go directory lives, right? Because your go gonna be, in my case, it's gonna be ls.go, I think, or even go here. I think, yeah, you see, that's where my thing is. It's in home, like home, go. That's where mine is. Most of the time in Linux, that's the default, right? But it could be different for you. Hey, let me know. But you will figure it out. No worries. A little bit of hustle, no problemo. All right. So that's being set, right? So now we compile that with make proto, right? Compile this stuff. So if we open up our thingy, we're going to see here pb, and we're going to have some problems here because we didn't install it, I think. Is that a thing? So we're gonna get this. What's going on here? Don't show me. It's actually annoying. That's actually annoying. Let me boot that a little bit up and see if I need to do a go get up google.golang.org protobuff. Can I do it like that? Press enter, it's downloading it, and normally it should be fine. Okay, cool. What's going on? Oh yeah, this is a generated file. Do not edit it, but we also need to install that, right? Maybe I should do this also. Let's copy this, open up the README. Protobuffers installing these things, and then we're gonna say, for example, for install the package dependencies like this. Paste that in. Do this. You're gonna say go get here, not reflect, just protobuff will be fine, and then we're gonna put this in. You guys can copy that perfectly fine. Yes, cool, that's done. So right now we have basically this pb types which is generated, so now we can actually use that. For example, if we go to main in OBU, for example, and we go to init, we could say, for example, x is going to be types.test, right? This is our test file. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is going to have some int, you see, and then we can say 40 and it's going to work perfectly fine. If you print that, but you're not going to do that, but you get the point, right? So it's perfectly working. So make sure you're up to this point because it could be a little bit more complicated. That's basically the prototypes, right? So if you go back to our proto file, the next thing we're going to do is basically implement a service, right? First of all, let me show you for which service we're gonna do. I think it was the, is it the aggregator we're gonna use that for? Yeah, the aggregator, because this is getting, this is getting called, right? With a client, yeah. So basically, this is going to be an HTTP client. I'm gonna actually rename this file. I'm gonna call this HTTP client, right? Yeah, that's fine, because we're also going to have a protobuffer client, right? Protobuffer client. And yeah, we are good to go. So what we need to basically make is a service that has the aggregated invoice function. And that's basically for now what we can do, to be honest. And actually that should be aggregated distance, but hey, it's fine. Let's do not tinker with that. Yeah, so we're going to make a protobuffer service that implements aggregated invoice, right? That's what we're going to do. So we can actually, because who is using this? It's being used by the consumer, the distance calculator, right? So the distance calculator is using this aggregation client, and it's going to aggregate the invoice. And now we are with HTTP, but now we are going to make a protobuffer gRPC client that the distance calculator is getting complex, that the distance calculator can use instead of JSON, because it's much faster protobuffer, right? It's just less of an overhead. Yes. Okay, cool. I think we are up to speed to get started. So what we're going to do first, we're going to open up these... I'm going to split the screen real quick. I'm going to proto here. And I'm going to make a service, and it's going to be RPC. I'm going to call this... That's a good question. How are we going to call that? Aggregator. Wait, let me see what these namings normally are. Just un momento, por favor. Price fetcher, yeah. I'm going to call this aggregator, but I'm going to call this aggregator service. I think it's going to conflict because gRPC is using a lot of service in its own thingy. Well, let's make this maybe distance aggregator. Aggregator, right? And that's going to be, we're going to give this something in here, and it's also going to return another type in here, right? So in our case, let me see what it returns here. The aggregate invoice, I think it's not going to do anything, to be honest. Aggregator, it's going to be the service, I guess. Yeah. So the only thing it does is basically it takes in a distance, right? So we're going to do that. Let me see what the distance is, because we cannot reuse that type, right? We need to make another type, right? So we're going to say here, and I'm going to say distance. Actually, to be honest, let's do it a little bit better. Let's do an aggregate. Yeah. An aggregate request. So we're going to say it's going to be a double for the value, right? And that's going to be 1. We're going to give it a OBU ID. Actually, to be honest, I want the OBU ID to be 1. That's going to be an int32 OBU ID. It will automatically camel case this, by the way. Automatically capitalize that. It's going to be 1. This is going to be 2. And then we're going to say the Unix timestamp is going to be an int64. It's going to be 3, right? That's what aggregate request. Yeah. The next thing we're going to do is this distance aggregator is going to receive that aggregate request, right? And actually could be an aggregate distance request, maybe. Yeah, distance. I'm thinking, and typing is hard. So we're going to say it's going to be an aggregate distance request. And it's going to return, I think, can we only return an error? I don't think it's going to work like that. I'm going to make a new message. I'm going to call this none. Because you need to return something, but we actually don't return except an error, but that's being handled. You will see what's going on. So that's going to be fine. Kill all these things. So we're going to have that. Let's see if that compiles. Actually, we can't. We need to first go to our make file. And I think what we need to do is go out here. And then we need to say grpc out. It's going to be the same thing. And then grpc. I think it's go grpc. Let me quickly speak. Let me quickly speak here. On my second screen, make file is going to be go grpc. Yeah, okay, I thought I was wrong. So it's going to be go dash grpc out, and then we're going to say go dash grpc opts, and that's going to be the same thing. Paths is going to be source relative make proto. Let's see if that's going to work. Unknown flag go grpc opts. I think it's opts with the T. Boom. Unknown flag. It's opt. grpc opt. Okay, I think I made a mistake. In the proto file. Let me quickly check it out. Yeah, I think we need to close that, to be honest. And here also. Is that true? I don't think so. Expected top level statement, proto 11. Oh yeah, my bad. Again. Did I save that? What is going on? Make proto top level statement. Expected a top level statement, e.g. message. I'm a little bit confused here. Let me double check it again. Like I said, this gRPC thing, that's all the time I need to look that up if it's... But once it's compiled, it's going to be okay, right? And it's going to be okay. Yeah, we need to... Oh, it's going to be... Ah, I see what's going on. It's my mistake. We need to basically do... I thought there was something wrong. We need to basically do this service. I'm going to say it's going to be the distance aggregator. And then we need to encapsulate that. And then we're going to say which methods this distance aggregator is going to have. And that's going to be aggregate distance, right? That's what's going to be. Make proto. That should actually work. No, man, it's not. Of course, maybe I need to do this small thingy. Is that the case? Now we need to, yeah, now we need to cut this off with a semicolon. Is that it, guys? Unix is not defined. That's true, because this needs to be Unix here. And int 64 here, right? Make proto, and that's gonna work. Boom, look at that. Sweet. Took us some time, but we did it, right? So let's open up these things. So now we're gonna have some stuff. It's gonna probably bork out here because we don't have gRPC installed. So let's do that real quick here. Let's scroll that down and say go get Google golang org/grpc. Press enter. It's going to download all that stuff. And then it's going to be fine here. We cannot save this file because it's auto-generated. Let's... I'm going to do this. Copy that. Readme. Install the package dependencies. And this guy here. Go get Protobuffer. Maybe we're going to make it a little bit cleaner, like this. 141 Protobuffer package, and then we're going to say here 42 is going to be the gRPC package, right? Yes, we did it. Cool. Okay. So basically, to install, let me see how much we have on the video, because it's gonna, doing that stuff is gonna take at least 2 episodes for sure, I think. Depends. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna open up, let's first try to start the gRPC transport, because gRPC is actually just TCP, but we also need to have a port and all that shenanigans boot up, so let's see how far we get with that, right? I think it's gonna be in the aggregator. It's gonna be main here. And we're going to make a new function here. What is going on? We're going to say func make gRPC transport. Just like this. Maybe we're going to have an address here. We're going to say an listen address. It's going to be a string. Probably need a service. There's going to be another service. You will see why. But let's see how far we're going to get here. It's going to be something like com r grpc Good question. I need to look that up, actually, guys. I need to look it up. We did a couple things. We also need an interface for that. Like I said before, I'm going to do this on the fly. You're going to see that I do not know everything on top of my head, although I use gRPC a shit ton of times. Let me quickly check how we are going to fix this. Yeah, that's the skull. Oh yeah, so the first thing we're going to do is we need to make a listener. Yeah, that's true, because gRPC does not do everything for us. We need to make a listener first. And how do you make a listener? It's going to be ln, r is going to be net listen. It's going to be TCP. And then we're going to give this a listen adder, right? Just like that. We're going to also maybe say, it's going to return an error here. We're going to say if this error, and if that error is not null, we are going to return that error without any further ado. But then we're going to have this listener, and then we're going to say server, and that's going to be a gRPC, a new server, and I think that needs options. I think it's going to be gRPC a slice of gRPC options, maybe. Server option, that's what we need, server option. But we don't give any options here. I think that's going to be fine. The next thing we need to do is make an implementation, because we could do server.serve with a listener, yeah. Does it return an error? Maybe it is, so I'm going to return that, so it's going to block here. This needs to be ellipsis, just like that. But we also need to make an gRPC aggregator. So we're going to do this. Service, we can make it actually here. No, we're not going to do that. I'm going to call grpc go, right? That's what we're going to do here. Package main, we're going to put all our gRPC stuff in here. I think we need to implement gRPC aggregator. Going to be a struct, by the way, I think, yeah. We're going to say types dot unimplemented distance aggregator server. We need to have that. Yeah. This probably is going to have the service, I think. We will see. And now we need to implement a function here. So we're going to say s gRPC distance aggregator, and that's going to be the function we gave it in the prototypes. Aggregate distance, probably like that. Aggregate distance. And it's going to be an aggregate distance request. Okay, cool. Delete these things. Types, aggregate distance request. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna basically shorten this name because it's crazy. Aggregate and we're gonna make it a little bit shorter. We're gonna go to proto here. Distance aggregator. I'm gonna call this the aggregator. It's fine, and we're gonna say aggregate like this, and then we're gonna say aggregate request, just like this, because otherwise it's going to be too large, and I don't like that. I'm gonna say make proto once again to basically bootstrap all that stuff. We're going to get some errors, but that's because we have that file open, which is automatically generated. All right, so right now this is going to be an other thingy. So we're going to say types.unimplemented aggregator server. That's nice. And we are going to say gRPC aggregator, and then we're going to say here, why do we prefix gRPC? So we know it's actually gRPC, right? Instead of a JSON or normal thing. gRPC. Is that not going to type in for me? Okay. All good. Huh? gRPC? Aggregate request. Should be fine, right? What's going on here? Some mistake, I don't know. There's probably going to be a request. Going to be a types, and we are going to return an error. Can be like this. Let's return null here. All right, aggregate distance, the gRPC aggregator. I hope that's clear so far. Because we're going to have a JSON server, right? And that's not a JSON server, we're going to have an HTTP server, and that's going to basically, each time you hit the request with JSON, it's going to use the service and calculate and aggregate the distance. But now we're going to have a gRPC transport, so it's not going to work with our HTTP server, so we need to make a gRPC server. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to call this gRPC server, just like that. And it's going to be a little bit better because our aggregator is our service itself, right? So aggregate distance is a method of this server. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. We're going to say here, I think we're going to need the service also, which is going to be the aggregator itself, the aggregator service. So we're going to say func new gRPC server. Going to return us a gRPC server, and we're going to say return and gRPC server, and we're going to give this the SVC, which is going to be an aggregator. Yes, and we're going to say SVC is going to be the SVC. I hope that makes sense, right? So we're going to create a new gRPC server. We're going to make a constructor, which is called new gRPC server, so we can put in our aggregator, so we can basically say here s.service.aggregate distance. I hope that makes sense. And then we need to have a distance object here, which is a type's distance, right? That's our main type. So we go back to the gRPC. So we're going to say, let's make the type itself, let's make the distance here. The distance is going to be a type's distance, right? We're going to say OBUID is going to be a rec OBUID. And now we're going to wonder, why can't we use the same types? Because you can't. Because you need to understand that there is a big difference between, I will type it out here, there's a big difference between the transport layer, right? And the business layer. That's very important. I don't know what's going on, but somebody just subscribed to my channel. Hey, I'm so sorry. Oh yeah, it's the new Streamlabs thing, man. It's I'm recording with Streamlabs instead of OBS, right? So it's going to be the transport layer and the business layer, right? So the business layer is going to have its business layer type, right? It's basically the main type. Everyone needs to convert to, right? Convert to. No matter what transport it is, everybody will convert their request and response type to the business layer type. He's the boss. The business layer is basically central. He decides, right? So the transport layer is going to basically, even if it's a JSON, that's actually easy for us because we can basically just use the type's distance here, right? Because it's the same, right? But for gRPC, we're going to use basically the, what's it called? It's the aggregator request, right? It's going to be the types.aggregate a request. Because it's a request, right? And this is going to be all done, right? Because it's the same type. Same type. And the aggregate request needs to convert that to a types.distance, right? Just like that. You know what I mean? And maybe you're going to have, for example, a Webpack transport. Then you're going to go to types.myWebpack thingy. And you're going to do that to a types distance. You know what I mean? So basically, everybody is going to convert it to a types distance. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes a lot of sense. You can see if the recording is pretty fine. Yes, because it's not the first time that I'm making lessons and it's not recording. You know what I mean? Okay. So distance types distance OBU ID. We're also going to say going to be the distance itself. Is that true? What do we have in distance? I have no clue. Types distance. Let me open it up here. Types value. It's going to be the same thing, right? Then in the requests, we named it almost the same. Rec.value, actually exactly the same. And then it's going to be the Unix, which is going to be the rec.unix, right? It's unfortunate, but we need to do that, right? We need to convert these types to a types distance, right? Let's kill these things here. Boom, boom, boom. Then we're going to say svc aggregate distance, which we can just put the distance in here, right? Just like that. And you could say probably an error, right? Actually, we can return that. It's pretty fine. Why can we return that? Because aggregate distance is returning an error, right? That's fine. Of course, guys, very important is that if you want to wrap this, and that's maybe a good lesson to understand the decorator pattern and how we make these onions, these onion layers with logging and with metrics and all that stuff. You need to do that for the same way we did for the JSON transport as here. Oh, it's not true. That's actually not true. Hola, it's not true. You will see. Oh man, guys, that's not true. It's gonna work out of the bat. It's gonna work completely out of the fucking bat. It's gonna be insane. That's why my approach, and nobody actually teaches you like that. There is actually not on Arden Labs, nobody, never on the world teaches you to wrap these things. You will see what's going to happen because this aggregate distance, this servicer, is also going to be the logging middleware. Remember? It's going to be in main. Look at that, right? So what's going to happen is we're going to make the new invoice aggregator. Then we're going to wrap that into a logging middleware, and this service is what we're going to give to the gRPC server. So it's going to log out, and it's going to do our metrics, and it's going to do our whole shebang. And we do not need to touch the transport any. We can make thrift transport, we can make Webpack transport. It doesn't really matter because if something is in our business logic, we update it in our business logic, and it will reflect on every transport. It's amazing. That gives me dopamine. That gives me dopamine. It is what it is. All right, we're going to say make gRPC transport. It's going to be fine. We're not going to use that for now. Because here we're going to say wait, I need to think. I need to quickly check how we did that here. Yeah, we need to call protobuffer.register. No, it's not true. It's going to be types. Register aggregator server. And now we need to register our server, right? I'm going to make some comments here, right? Make a TCP listener. That's what we're going to do. Then make a new gRPC native server, right? With options. And then we're going to say register our gRPC server implementation to the gRPC package. Yeah. Right. So what's going to be this guy? This guy is going to be a new gRPC server with a service in it. There is no service here because we need to provide this here. Right? I'm going to say the service is going to be an aggregator. Always the same thing with aggregator. I hope this is going to start making sense, to be honest. Do we need to do something else? Oh yeah, we need to specify the server also. This guy. The server, the native server, and our gRPC server, if that makes any sense. I hope, guys, I know this is going to be a little bit complex. But you need to, I hope I basically explain it well, because this is complex things. So we make a TCP listener. I'm going to recap this because it's very important. We're going to make a TCP listener, which basically is very easy. Make a TCP listener and you could start listening, right? Then we basically make the server for gRPC, which is the server from the package itself, from the gRPC package, right? And then we need to register our aggregator server. This is actually confusing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to aggregator server, by the way. Aggregator server. Aggregator server. Aggregator server. Shit, it's gRPC. Oh, okay, it's fine. gRPC. I'm going to spend extra time here. Something, I don't know what's going on, but hey. What do I miss here with? I have no clue. All right, let's do it like that. So basically, yeah, that makes more sense. I'm going to spend a little bit more time because it's very, very, very important. Like that. Okay, cool. Main aggregator, this one. Right. So that's going to be our gRPC aggregator service. We already have an HTTP JSON server, right? That's here, right? This is our make HTTP transport, make gRPC transport, right? For HTTP, it's simple. Just handle func, listen and serve, call it a day, right? Easy peasy. For gRPC, we make a listener. We make a new server from the gRPC package. Then we're going to register our aggregator server, which is actually going to serve the requests, the gRPC requests. And then we're just going to say server, serve listener, and call it a day. So it's going to be a gRPC new gRPC aggregator server. Boom. Just like that. Right. So now that we have a gRPC transport, we're going to boot that up, right? So what we could do is we're going to make the HTTP transports, but we're also going to say go make gRPC transports, and we're going to put in the SVC, also a new listen adder. We're going to say this guy is going to be the HTTP adder. We're going to call this HTTP listen adder, right? We're going to copy that, and we're going to say gRPC listen adder, which is going to be the gRPC, and we're gonna listen to HTTP on 3000, it could be anything you want, and gRPC on 3001, right? The listen adders of the HTTP, listen adders of the gRPC, right? gRPC listen adder, perfectly fine. There's gonna be the gRPC, a pointer to the dereferenced variable of the gRPC listen adder, right? And this is going to be the HTTP listen adder. I hope that makes sense. So why do we need to do go? Because if we don't do go make gRPC transport or make HTTP transport will be actually, guys, what we could do, we could make a switch if you really want. Maybe you want to boot it as gRPC, maybe you want to boot it as HTTP. You could make a switch statement. It depends. Or you can boot them all together. But then you need to basically put one in a go routine. Of course, if you put one in a go routine, you also need to have mechanics to close these guys, right? Can we do this? That's gonna block here. So what we could do, something like defer ln close. So the listener is gonna close when there is an error, but you cannot stop it gracefully because there is nothing to gracefully stop here in this thing, I guess. That's fine. Defer, listener, close, very important. And then here, all fine. It's good. We're Gucci, right? Something like that. Let's see if we can make that. Make ag. All right. So what we're gonna do also is we're gonna print out here. Boom. We're gonna say gRPC transport running on port, and that's going to be this listen adder. That's perfectly fine, right? Make ag, boom. You see, we're going to have an HTTP transport running on port 3000 and a gRPC transport running on port 3001. Yeah. So now our aggregator service has two transports where people can interact with it, right? HTTP for debugging or something, or new services that quickly wanna test something. But gRPC with Protobuffer, high speed programming, right? Of course, in the next lesson, I'm going to wrap it up for now. In the next lesson, we are going to make the client and do some requests and see how it all works together. All right. See you in the next one. And now I, of course, need to find my stream up to close. See you in the next one, guys.